So I don't really know where to start, so I'm just going to start. And I struggled for a long time trying to figure out, you know, my way like a lot of people. And, basically, I'm just going to come out with it and say it like this. This system is rigged, okay? And if you want to become a musician or an artist, you should think really hard about that. And I'm telling this to you as somebody who has experienced quite a bit of success in the industry, doing a variety of things. And also as somebody who has won a Grammy Award, okay? And despite all of that, I've been in the game now for 20 years. And for some reason, the more I continue, the better my art gets. But it seems to become harder and harder to connect the dots, so to speak. I recently moved from Dallas to Austin, and there are a lot of reasons why I did that, but one of the reasons why is because I thought that this scene would be more favorable to what I'm trying to do. Austin's known as like this city of music or whatever, and I could go a million different directions on that, but I quickly found out that I'm wasting my time. And the reason why is because the game has changed. It's no longer about how good you are or getting out and performing and making yourself known. Like, that's just not enough. And this is why over all this time I've come to understand how manipulated the industry really is. And this isn't about other people, right? You know, yes, I've made a lot of mistakes, and there's things that I could have done differently, and there's things that I would have done differently. And if I were to go back 20 years, honestly, I never would have gotten into the music industry. I would have gone directly into what I wanted to do, which is become a pilot and fly airplanes. But the reason I didn't do that is because when I was in high school, they didn't need pilots. I graduated in 2003, and there was a pilot furlough during that time, and they were saying like for the first 5 to 10 years of your career, you're going to make $25,000 a year, which is a joke because that's basically how much money I made in the first 5 to 10 years of my career being in the music industry. So the thing is that when you become a pilot, for example, or a lot of fields associated with need or demand, the better you become, the further you advance, right? You get more flight hours, you become a better pilot, you get better jobs, you fly bigger planes, your salary goes up. That's like the trajectory. There's no, oh, well, maybe. You become a doctor, you get your education, you get your specialization, you're going to get the big bucks. It's like 100% guarantee. You become an artist, you get 10, 15, 5, 20, 25, 30, 40 years under your belt. That doesn't mean anything. That's the joke. And that people that started 2 years ago, like there are artists that performed this Austin City Limits Music Festival that have not even been in the game a couple years. Yeah, some of them have been in the game for 10 years, but they had success with like their first projects. And good for them. That's very fortunate. I'm not going to say that that means you're good. I'm just going to say that you essentially hit the genetic lottery. And even the headliners of these festivals, you know, some of them hadn't had hits in forever. And, you know, I'm not going to go too far into that because, again, it's not about them. I'm just using it as an example where when I listen to the artist and I see that the artist is number 17 on the world globally, and I listen to their music and I don't feel anything. And the reason why I don't is because it's not real. It's manufactured. And we all know that Spotify is a scam. And my music is on Spotify. But I could tell you that it is a pay-for-play system. I've done lots of analysis on it. I run ads to test things, and that's what I found out. I've also found out that it's not really favorable to art. And I talk about art versus product, right? If you're an artist, you're constantly going to have this battle to create product. But it's juxtaposed to being an artist. Artists create. They don't worry about outcome. But that's why being an artist is such a fickle path. Because you're constantly trying to figure out what people like. You know? And honestly, well, I could go into this a million directions, but the point is that the algorithm that Spotify has is not designed for artists. It's designed for product. So my catalog is far superior artistically and product based. But because I'm all over the place from a genre standpoint, because I am a master, artist, I can play guitar. I can make electronic music, you know? I discovered AI music recently and I'm killing it. And when I say killing it, what I mean is if you put your projects on SoundCloud, that is more indicative of quality. Not 100%, but it's closer. And the reason why is because people are served the music, and if they like it, the algorithm serves it to more people. That's not really how Spotify works. Okay? Now, they can say whatever they want. I could tell you the actual data and the results behind it. Why is it that I have, you know, less than 12,000 plays on Spotify in the last, 6 months, say? And why is it that I have, like, I think the last time I checked it, I had 306,000 plays on SoundCloud in that same time period? And the songs that I suspect that are going to do well typically perform well on SoundCloud. I put out a song recently, an album, and I called several of the songs that I knew they would get traction, and they did. And the number one song that I picked as the title track got the most traction because I taste made it and I knew that was going to be the song. And guess what? The audience resonated with it too. That's because I know these things, because of my experience. But see, Spotify is not going to let you succeed in that regard. Because if you're not exactly in this pipeline, If you're not a, see, that's the thing. Most artists are not artists at all. They're products, okay? You know, and I'm not saying you have to be a musician. When I say music, okay, musician means you play an instrument, right? And people could say, oh, well, voice is an instrument. I understand, but I'm talking about a physical instrument. You play guitar, you play piano. I'm not talking about you make beats on your computer, which I do too. And that does require some level of skill, but you cannot compare the DJ that produces music on his computer to a masterful guitar player. There's no comparison. And you can say whatever you want, okay? If you practice your ass off playing guitar for 2 to 5 years, that is not going to make you in the upper echelon of guitar players. It just won't. It's not possible. Yes, you can be listenable, but DJs put together stuff, or producers or whatever you want to call them, all the time that have really not a lot of skill, or they have minimal training. And this is not to, slight them, but I'm giving you the objective path here. The point is that it doesn't matter your level of mastery. Like I said, with a pilot or a doctor, that does not mean you're going to be successful. Okay? And I am living proof of that. Yes, I know my music is good. A lot of the things I've done in my career have been successful and are good, if not great. But that doesn't mean anything to the marketplace. Okay? Now, I have monetized things, but currently, I'm trying to adjust my trajectory a little bit, and I realized that buying into the old model is not the right path. It's never been the right path. And that's why it's not entirely why I'm at where I'm at right now, but I have always stayed true to my art. That's the thing, is that I really believe I operate, and I've said this before, is that artists operate on a different plane, spiritual plane, okay? So when I make great music, I'm not going to get mad at the world if it doesn't reciprocate. But the thing is that it does reciprocate. It's just the current infrastructure is not set up to facilitate the success of real artists. Okay? That's why I mentioned SoundCloud. SoundCloud my music has gotten hundreds of thousands of plays. You can see the users on SoundCloud and how many times they're listening to your music and where they are in the world. That's what's crazy about it. Spotify doesn't give you access to any of that. They tell you where people live in the world, but they don't tell you who they are. They don't give you usernames or anything like that. I can literally message the users on SoundCloud and tell them thanks for listening, or whatever, or here's my new project. And a great deal of them don't respond, and I understand. It's a passive platform. But the point is that they are connecting with what I'm creating. And even music videos I've made, it's kind of interesting to see how people respond. And I even had a mainstream artist reach out to me. I knew who he was. I just couldn't believe he had reached out to me when I saw it, the message. I said, this name sounds familiar. Why is he contacting me? Maybe this is like a fake account or something. But it wasn't. It was his actual account. He had hundreds of thousands, or has hundreds of thousands of followers on his Instagram. And he said he was obsessed with this project that I created. And he said he wanted to work together. That alone is I don't need to hear it. I don't need somebody mainstream to tell me I'm good. I know what I'm creating. I'm not going to put it out if it's not good. And actually, some of the material I put out is a joke, but I put it out because what I hear on the radio is a joke. Okay? So you think I'm being serious. I'm not. I'm making fun of you. And the funny thing is that music also gets traction. The reason why is because I'm a real artist. And what I'm saying is true. You know? And sometimes I might be aggressive. Sometimes I might have a chip on my shoulder. Sometimes maybe not. But the point is that I'm going to communicate all that through my art, however I'm feeling, whatever it is. So this mainstream artist reached out to me and we exchanged a few messages. And I suspect he started digging through my catalog and then he went ghost. Okay. I sent him a few projects after that and he reads them, but he doesn't respond. You know, so, but they're in the public eye. They have essentially a master to answer to. And, you know, if you have billions of streams, which this individual does, he literally has songs that were in the top 10 on Billboard. You're not going to subject yourself to somebody who's on the cutting edge. I assure you that. Not until it's safe to go in the water. Very few people will stick their neck out for someone else. You know, there's some examples of that where that has happened, but that is the exception. That's not the rule. And that's why we are where we are right now. You know, people, you know, it's going to be what it's going to be. Me bringing it up isn't going to change anything. And I know that. And I guess the reason I make this is because, like, I feel like, you know, partially it's therapeutic for me to really, I don't know, I guess get it out, but I feel like it might be helpful to somebody. Don't become an artist. Just don't do it. You know? Or if you are an artist and you enjoy creating whatever it is, don't let money or the pursuit of the success of that said art taint the art. That's the thing. You know, I have sacrificed a lot in every aspect of my life to stay true to my art. You know, I could be out doing other types of music and performing or this and that, but like I would rather find money from other sources and continue to make my art, you know, and maybe some of it will get well, actually I don't have to say maybe some of it because it is getting noticed. Again, you know, oh my God. I don't want to like ramble on forever. The point is that the systems are not designed for artists, okay? And, you can't use TikTok or social media as well. SoundCloud is social media to a certain degree, but I think that's the thing too, is like, what are you creating? Is it even the right platform? Like sometimes some content doesn't do well on certain platforms. You know what I mean? And it's kind of funny because, this goes into deeper issues, but like, I've never really struggled with women, for example. But I can tell you, the first time I traveled outside of the country, the United States, like in my adult life, when I went to Europe, I found out how truly valuable I actually was. Because I realized I was selling to the wrong audience. You know, I remember I met this like beautiful girl from Poland, and she was like so into me, and she's like commenting on how beautiful my American accent was. Like, what? You know, this is somebody that resonates with my art. And it's the same thing when I lived in Mexico, in my most recent life. I can pull nines and tens all day there because you're different in that marketplace, right? And the thing is that sometimes even people feel threatened by your existence. And, you know, yeah, it is your fault. Like around Austin. Like, the reality is that when I play open mics, I'm better than a majority of the artists that go in there. But it's not about that, right? But the thing is that give credit where credit's due. If somebody is a master, I will always meet them at their level. You know what I mean? Game recognized game. And the artists around here, or whatever you want to call them, they want to play like a bunch of other people's material, and they don't even do it well or in a different way. And you step on the scene and you perform your own material, and it's better. And like, I went to this one open mic, and I helped this guy get set up and everything, and it was kind of funny because he, on his social media, he posted every single artist that performed except for me. That's not a coincidence. Okay? That's a slight. That's what that is. And people do that because they feel threatened. And that's dumb. And I'm a blues player, so we don't operate like that. Blues players all play differently. Yes, there are some that are better than others, but just because you play like Eddie Van Halen, that doesn't make you a blues player. And there's some people that keep it really simple in their own way that have more cachet than people who complicate things. So I don't really know what the point of this video was. I think I was just reflecting on being an artist. And to this day, I still wish I had become a pilot. I have a lot of regrets in my life. And anyone who says that they don't, they're lying. Now, I've taken a lot of risks. A lot. And I'm not going to say I shouldn't have taken more. I'm going to say that I didn't. And, that's why I sit where I'm at right now. Not where I want to be in a lot of different aspects. And, I did try to go to flight school. I thought now was the right time in my life. But because I went down this artist path, Um, you know, I do have alcoholism that runs in my family, so I didn't realize that, essentially I had spent the last 10 to 15 years, or most of, yeah, probably since high school, essentially, partying all the time. Not all the time, but when I got in my late 20s and early 30s is when it became an addiction. And because of that whole process, I can't become a pilot now. And the reason why is because uh, I was medicated. I'm not anymore, but I was. And you have to disclose that when you become a pilot. And, I talked to an attorney about it, and he told me it's a really low chance that you will be able to do that. So I just had to put that in a box. Like, it's just not going to happen. And that's pretty disheartening because that's the path that I wanted to go down. Now, I'm not saying that that could have come with its own set of problems too. I don't know what those would have been because I didn't go down that road. But the point is, it probably would have put me in a lot better footing. But the world may never know, right? The point is, I am where I am now, and I'm just communicating to you sort of the realities of the situation. That's the point. So, um, I'll keep making videos, and you know, I don't really care what happens with it, but it's out there. It's going to be out there in case you want to do something with it. And maybe I'll share more as it comes to mind. So uh that's all I have to say, world. Have a good night.